No Man's Sky is out now, so people are finally getting a definitive answer as to what it is you do in the enormous Space Explorer from Hello Games. I streamed a good 6 hours after the embargo lifted, which is why you can see my face in the corner of this video, and I'm already quite taken with it. I'm a big Elite Dangerous fan, so I'm well used to bimbling around the galaxy for hours on end in a little spaceship. The gameplay loop in No Man's Sky scratches many of the same itches, which is great, but it did leave me wondering, is it as grindy as other space games like Elite Dangerous? Just how real is the grind in No Man's Sky? The first thing to understand is there is definitely a grind in No Man's Sky. No matter your playstyle, you're going to end up sinking a fair amount of time into gathering and building stuff to help you on your journey across the numerous garish, colourful planets and systems. The real question in terms of the grind's intensity is how fast you want to progress or how lofty your goals are. The more you want to do, in other words, the bigger the grind. Let's say, for example, you want to be the first player to make it all the way to the other side of the game's frankly vast universe. Well, that's going to require a lot of fuel for your hyperdrive, and crafting items such as hyperdrive warp cells will cost you resources. These resources can be mined or found lying about the place, or if you're having trouble finding enough of a particular resource, they can be bought. However, buying things, of course, costs credits. You can earn credits by selling things you've mined or found lying about the place, or by discovering new planets, animals, and plants and uploading that data. Now honestly, No Man's Sky starts you off with a pretty generous selection of kit, meaning once you've fixed up your ship, you'll be able to scan and explore planets, and plunder them for tasty resources, pretty much to your heart's content. If you want to follow the game's mysterious, mostly hands-off story, however, there are a few items you're going to have to build in order to progress. Getting yourself better equipment, or a fancier spaceship funnily enough, also represents a fairly significant investment in terms of credits and resources, and therefore time and effort. You can buy a new ship or you can fix up a crashed one, but the former is, for the most part, eye-wateringly expensive, and the latter requires a lot of raw materials. Although frankly, if it were a piece of cake to get yourself the best ship in the universe, I'd be pretty disappointed. And then there's the simple cost of staying alive and keeping your ship working to consider. Your spacecraft's various systems require powering up with resources, and the same goes for your exosuit's life support and environmental shield capabilities, as well as your multi-tool. Pretty much everything in No Man's Sky then requires a resource of some kind, and like it or not, you're going to spend a fair bit of time gathering resources as you go in order to keep things ticking over. You're also going to be fighting your irritatingly small inventory the whole way, but that's a story for another time. So now we've established what the grind is, just how burdensome is it? To be honest, for the most part, it's not that bad. No Man's Sky has a vested interest in keeping your ship running, so it positively throws materials such as iron and plutonium at your feet. Plutonium is important for letting your ship take off, so keep gathering it so you don't get stranded. Mining can get a bit monotonous if you spend too long doing it, but thankfully there are ways to keep resource gathering from growing too samey, a large part of which is knowing the smartest way to gather things. If you need Thamium-9 for instance, don't bother looking for it on the surface of a planet, that's a woefully inefficient method. You can gather it much faster by taking your ship into space and blowing up asteroids. It's a similar story for resources like Iridium, which are generally harder to get hold of than more common items like carbon. You might be tempted to keep scanning for these while moving about the planet's surface, gathering them in dribs and drabs, and that's fine if you're in no particular rush, but it is fairly inefficient. You can save a lot of time by skimming the surface of a planet in your ship and keeping an eye out for a monolith. A monolith will give you loads of Iridium and save you a lot of legwork. Or you could suck it up and buy some. Speaking of buying things, you can generate a pretty constant stream of income by analysing things with your multi-tool and uploading the data. This also gives you the opportunity to name things and put your stamp on the galaxy, which frankly is one of the best bits about No Man's Sky. Now, I'm probably a bit biased here because I love exploring in Elite Dangerous, but discovering new species, in my opinion, is the most enjoyable and consistent way to generate income as you go about the place in No Man's Sky. It also, for my money, takes a lot of pressure off the grind. You could break your back mining for resources, or you could spend some time just being a tourist and visiting a few planets, then buy whatever it is you need at a trading post. In other words, you don't have to become a professional miner in No Man's Sky if you don't want to. So in conclusion, the grind is there in No Man's Sky, but for my money, it's pretty bearable. Push yourself too hard and you are going to burn out, of course, but if you're smart about it, you should be able to strike the right balance between tooling around and getting stuff done. That's in my opinion anyway, so please let me know in the comments if you feel differently. And if you fancy taking a closer look at No Man's Sky, we've got a video covering 50 planets in just 7 minutes, or you could watch our mega stream on Catch Up. It's good fun, we rename a lot of creatures. Either way, thanks for watching.